There comes a moment not always grand or ceremonial, but soft, perhaps wrapped in the quiet ache of an ordinary afternoon when you are invited to return. Not to a place on a map, not to a former version of yourself, but to something far more sacred. To this moment, to now, to the eternal whisper that has never stopped calling your name beneath the noise of time. Celebrate the now, not because it is perfect, but because it is alive, because it is real, because it is all there truly is. The past may dress itself in nostalgia or regret, wearing robes of memories and shadows, but it no longer exists outside the stories you tell. And the future, oh, the future forever tempting you with promises of completion, of happiness just around the bend. But it is a mirage. It cannot nourish you because it is not yet born. But now this breath, this heartbeat, this gentle unfolding of life beneath your feet, this is sacred. Most of us have been taught to abandon the present moment as if it were a waiting room for something better. We live as if life begins at some later date, as if joy is something to earn, as if peace is awarded only after the checklist is complete. But the soul does not live in delay. It does not know how to wait. It only knows how to be. When you awaken from the trance of time, when you stop bargaining with the future or clinging to the past, you discover something miraculous. The kingdom of heaven, the peace that surpasses all understanding. The divine embrace you've been longing for, they do not arrive someday. They exist now, and they always have. The ego, forever unsatisfied, spins a story that the now is never enough. That happiness lives in some other moment, under some other condition, wearing a different name, a different body, a different set of achievements. But what if I told you that the now is not just enough, it is everything? What if this very moment, with all its imperfections, is the portal to your freedom? Rumi once said, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." And what is life if not now, living through your breath, your tears, your laughter, your stillness? The trees do not long to be somewhere else. They do not regret last season's leaves or worry about the storms to come. They stand, they root, they breathe, completely present, completely surrendered to the rhythm of now. Why should you live any differently? You are not here to manipulate life into giving you what you want. You are here to merge with life, to dance with it, to breathe it in as it is, unfiltered, unedited, unresisted. To celebrate the now is not to deny the pain. It is to recognize that even pain, when met without resistance, is sacred. It is a teacher, a fire that refines, a signal that you are still alive, still open, still capable of feeling. Every moment is a gift, wrapped not in glitter or grandiosity, but in presence. And presence is the greatest treasure the soul can hold. When you touch the present fully, even for a breath, you become untouchable by fear, because fear lives only in tomorrow, and shame lives only in yesterday. But love lives now. You are not your past. You are not your future. You are the awareness in this breath. You are the witness behind the eyes, the stillness beneath the waves. You are not the storm, you are the sky. And the sky is never in a hurry. There is a holiness in slowing down, in pausing long enough to feel the wind against your skin, to listen to the quiet between your thoughts, to watch a child laugh and realize this is it, this is life. Not the next promotion, not the next relationship, not the next version of yourself, but this moment. Can you feel it? The divine pulse of now. It does not ask you to be perfect. It does not ask you to earn it. It only asks you to receive it, to open your heart wide enough to hold what is here without trying to change it, escape it, or fast forward through it. When Jesus said, "Take no thought for tomorrow," he was not asking you to abandon responsibility. He was inviting you into the sacred trust that life takes care of life, that the lilies of the field do not toil, and yet they are clothed in glory, that your worth is not in your worry, but in your being. Being, not doing. This is the heart of spiritual living. Not endlessly becoming, but courageously being. And when you are fully here, when you stop splitting yourself between what was and what might be, you return to the divine simplicity of existence. You rediscover the soul's original song, the one it sang before the world told you who to be. That song is still playing. You have only to listen. Now is not a means to an end, it is the end, it is the whole. It is the field where the soul and the universe embrace. And in that embrace, everything you thought you had to chase comes rushing home. Peace is not hiding in the next vacation. It is whispering in this breath. Love is not waiting for someone else to recognize you. It is blooming right now in your own open heart. Joy is not locked away behind achievement. It is dancing in the sunlight on your windowsill. The spiritual path is not a path at all. It is a presence. It is the willingness to show up fully, nakedly, vulnerably to whatever the moment holds. Celebrate the now, not with fanfare, but with reverence. Celebrate it by breathing it in, by tasting your coffee like it's the first time, by feeling your feet on the ground and remembering that the earth is holy. Celebrate it by forgiving, by letting go, by smiling for no reason other than the miracle of existence. And when life gets heavy, and it will, when the noise grows loud and the world pulls you back into its demands, come home again. Close your eyes, breathe, feel the now rising to meet you. It has never left. You have never been separate from peace. You've only been distracted. But now you remember. And in remembering, you are free. Not someday, not after everything aligns. Now, always now. So celebrate it. Celebrate the now. Celebrate the miracle of being. Celebrate the breath. Celebrate the silence. Celebrate the presence that holds it all. Because this moment is where the divine meets you, and it always will. The more you root yourself in the now, the more you realize there is no separation between you and the sacred. The wind is not outside you, it moves through you. The warmth of sunlight is not distant, it is your own radiance reflected back. Every sound, every scent, every fleeting glance carries within it the fingerprint of the infinite. But to touch it, you must slow down. You must stop racing toward tomorrow as if your salvation lives there. It does not. It lives here in the soft rise and fall of your chest, in the hum of life pulsing beneath your skin. This is not about achieving some enlightened state. It is about dissolving the illusion that you are anything less than light itself. There is a quiet revolution that happens when you stop measuring your life by productivity and begin to measure it by presence. When you stop asking, what have I done today, and begin asking, have I truly lived today? The now is not neutral. It is charged with divinity. And when you begin to live from this sacred awareness, you find that nothing is mundane. Washing your hands becomes a baptism. Watching the rain becomes a meditation. Speaking to a stranger becomes communion. Everything is a doorway to grace if you are willing to walk through it. But the ego resists this simplicity. It wants to complicate, to analyze, to control. It says this moment isn't enough. You need more. And so you chase, you perform, you compare, you suffer. All in the name of a tomorrow that never comes the way you imagine. Yet the soul in its infinite wisdom knows another way. It whispers, be here, not as a punishment, not as a compromise, but as an invitation to taste the fullness of your own being, to rest in the arms of life, to trust that the now will always be enough because you are enough. You do not need to earn your right to be here. You were born worthy. You were born whole. You were born with the breath of God flowing through your lungs. No amount of striving can add to that, and no mistake can take it away. The now is your sanctuary. It is the eternal yes of the universe. It holds no grudges, no expectations, no delays. It only waits for you to notice it, to turn your gaze inward, to drop the story and meet the silence that sings beneath it all. Even pain changes when you meet it in the now. When you stop resisting it, stop fleeing from it, and instead say, yes, I will sit with you, something alchemical occurs. Pain no longer defines you, it refines you. It reveals to you the strength that cannot be shaken, the light that cannot be dimmed. When you stop needing the moment to be different, you discover it is already divine. There is nothing to fix. There is only everything to feel. And when joy arises, let it in fully. Don't question whether you deserve it. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Don't dull it with guilt or fear. Let joy flood you like sunlight through open windows. Let it remind you that celebration is not the reward for a life well lived. It is the life. You are not here to suffer your way into worthiness. You are here to remember your worth. And let life be a celebration of that remembrance. The now does not ask for your perfection. It asks for your presence. Can you be here not just physically but soulfully? Can you feel the sacred pulse beneath the ordinary? Can you listen not to the loud voice of doubt, but to the quiet hum of being? If you can, even for a moment, then you are free. Not because the world has changed, but because you have awakened to the truth. The world was never the prison. Your thoughts were, your expectations were, your resistance was. But now you have stepped outside the illusion. Celebrate this freedom, not by shouting, but by softening, not by running, but by resting. Let the now hold you like a mother holds her child, unconditionally, completely, eternally. Let it wrap around you like silence after a storm. Let it wash you clean of striving and remind you who you've always been, whole, holy, here. The more you return to the now, the more life begins to move through you effortlessly. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become deeper. Creativity flows like water, not because you've mastered a technique, but because you've surrendered to your essence. You've aligned with the rhythm of the universe, and that rhythm is always playing the song of now. Even your breath knows this truth. It doesn't wait for the right moment to flow. It simply flows, in and out, here and now. The breath is your teacher, your anchor, your bridge back to presence. When your mind runs wild, let the breath call you home. Let it remind you that you are not your thoughts, you are not your past. You are not your fear. You are the witness. You are the silence. You are the space in which all things arise and dissolve. And that space is infinite. It cannot be broken. It cannot be lost. It cannot be improved upon. It can only be remembered. And when you remember, everything changes. You laugh more easily. You cry without shame. You walk with reverence. You see God in the mirror and the stranger in the sky, because you have stopped trying to escape the now. And instead, you have begun to celebrate it. So let this be your practice, not a burden, but a blessing. Not another task, but a return. To this breath, to this heart, to this holy, trembling, miraculous now. Every soul, though seemingly unique in form and story, shares one sacred origin, the great sea of presence from which all things rise. And it is in the now that you taste the salt of that ocean again. Not by reaching outward, but by dissolving inward. By softening the edges of identity until all that remains is awareness still, luminous, free. In this stillness, you are not a role, a name, a body. You are not the survivor of your past or the architect of your future. You are the untouched light that watches it all, holding no judgment, asking for nothing in return. This light is not yours to find, it is yours to remember. There is no need to chase healing when you make your home in the now. For healing is not the fixing of what is broken, it is the honoring of what is sacred. And everything is sacred when seen through the eyes of presence. Even the ache you carry, even the doubts that sometimes cloud your mind, even the moments of uncertainty that stretch like long shadows across your path. They are not enemies, they are teachers, invitations. Lamps lit along the inner road, calling you deeper into communion with yourself. You may have been taught that you must conquer your fear, banish your sadness, silence your confusion. But the truth is more compassionate than that. You do not need to conquer anything. You need only to sit beside these inner guests and listen. They are not signs of your failure. They are the soul's language, speaking in tremors and tears, in restlessness and longing. When you stop resisting them, they begin to reveal their wisdom. And suddenly what you thought was in the way becomes the way. What you thought needed to be defeated becomes the doorway through which your true self returns. The present moment holds all paradox without contradiction. In one breath, it reveals your smallness in a vast cosmos, and in the next, your infinity within it. You are stardust in silence. You are a whisper in a thunder. You are the drop in the ocean. And this awareness does not arise through effort, it arises through surrender. You cannot think your way into it. You must feel your way back. You must be willing to let go of who you thought you were, to remember who you've always been. This is the grace of now. It asks for no performance. It honors no mask. It only calls forth the naked truth of your being, the part of you that was never wounded, never diminished, never afraid. That part has been waiting patiently, not behind the veil of time, but behind the veil of attention. Shift your attention. Look not to what is missing, but to what is already present. Look not to what might go wrong, but to what is eternally right. Your aliveness, your capacity to love, your unwavering presence here and now. Life is not asking you to be anything more than this moment. It is not asking you to achieve enlightenment as a goal, but to notice it as your nature. You do not arrive at peace, you return to it. And every time you come home to the now, you are met with open arms. not by something outside of you, but by the deepest part of yourself, the part that was never confused, never afraid, never striving. And from this space, miracles begin to happen, not because reality has changed, but because your vision has cleared. You start to notice beauty where you once saw nothing. You begin to feel connection where you once felt separation. You speak not to fill silence, but to echo truth. And when you listen, you hear the soul behind every word, the sacred pulse behind every moment. Presence is not passive. It is the most powerful force in the universe. It transforms not by doing, but by being. It heals not by effort, but by light. And when you anchor yourself in it, you become a living reminder to the world that stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the wholeness that holds all things. And it is always, now, there is a sacred intelligence humming beneath this moment, and it does not need to be understood to be felt. Like music that moves you before you comprehend the lyrics, this presence sings to your soul in a language older than words. You feel it in the silence that follows a sigh. You feel it in the hush between your thoughts. You feel it in the stillness that rises when you stop asking life to be anything other than what it is. That stillness is not emptiness, it is the womb of all creation. And when you drop into it, even for a flicker, you remember you are not here to outrun life. You are here to dance with it. Too often, we live as if we are on the edge of something better, as though peace is always just out of reach, as if our joy is always waiting for the next condition to be met. But this is the lie of the ego, the voice of separation dressed in ambition. And ambition is not wrong, it becomes wrong only when it seduces you away from your own presence, from the miracle that is unfolding right here in the exact shape of your life as it is. This breath, this feeling, this moment. To be present is to reclaim your inheritance, to wake up from the hypnosis of not yet and drink deeply from the well of now. Not to sip politely, but to fall into it with the abandon of a child who trusts the ocean. That kind of presence cannot be learned, it must be lived. It must be breathed, not studied. It must be embodied, not earned. And once you taste it, nothing else will satisfy. The world will still spin, the noise will still rise, but you will have found your ground. A still point inside that nothing can shake. You may ask, how do I stay here? But the question itself implies that you are elsewhere. The truth is you never left, you only forgot. And forgetting is not a failure, it is part of the journey. Each moment you return, no matter how many times you've strayed, is a triumph of remembrance. Like a bell sounding through fog, the now calls you back, not to scold you, but to serenade you. To remind you that your place is not in some future self, nor in the ruins of your past, but right here, in the center of your own being. Do not underestimate the power of your presence. It may not be loud, it may not shake mountains, but it has the power to shift energy, to soften wounds, to open hearts. Presence is not about performance, it is about resonance. It is about standing so fully in your own truth that others remember theirs. It is about being so aligned with the moment that even silence becomes contagious. That kind of presence doesn't ask for attention, it gives it. It doesn't demand love, it becomes love. And when you live from that space, you don't need to chase meaning. Life becomes meaningful by its very nature. The ordinary becomes luminous. A glance becomes an offering. A word becomes a blessing. You stop needing experiences to validate your existence. You begin to experience existence as its own validation. You stop waiting for the world to acknowledge your worth. You walk as someone who knows their worth was never in question. The ego will still speak. It will still whisper its doubts and stories. But you will no longer believe it, not because you fought it into silence, but because you stopped feeding it your attention. Your allegiance will have shifted from the voice of fear to the pulse of truth. And that truth is always here, always now. It does not need to be sought. It only needs to be seen. Let the now envelop you like dusk embraces the land, not quickly, not with force, but with inevitable grace. Let it wrap around your shoulders like a cloak of calm. Not to shield you from the world, but to connect you more deeply to it. This is not about retreat, it is about return. Not escape, but embodiment. Return to your breath. Return to the rhythm that underlies all things. Return to the space where the mind cannot lead, and the heart does not follow, it simply opens. You are not here to chase a better future. You are here to sanctify this one. You are not here to find God in the heavens. You are here to feel God in your hands, in your tears, in the warmth of your skin against the air. And when you realize this truly, realize this not just as a thought, but as a knowing in your bones, you will see that the now is not merely a moment in time. It is the doorway to eternity. It is the place where time dissolves and all that remains is life in its purest, most unfiltered form. Celebrate it, not someday, not when everything aligns, now, always now. And if, in this stillness, a wave of grief rises, do not turn away. Let it come, let it swell in your chest, and flood your eyes if it must. Do not fear its depth, do not judge its presence. For even sorrow is holy when it is honored. Even the tears you thought made you weak are baptized in the same light that formed galaxies. You do not need to be unshaken to be divine. The trembling is part of the song. The breaking open is how the light enters. You are not here to be untouched. You are here to be fully touched by life, to feel it all, to welcome every note in the symphony of now, without flinching, without flailing, without fleeing. When the pain comes, it is not your enemy. It is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is the soul's way of softening the shell you've outgrown, of clearing space for truth to live where illusion, once Saturday, and when you let it move through you without story, without resistance, it does not stay long. It comes like a thunderstorm over a summer field, wild, yes, but also cleansing. You do not have to fix the storm. You only have to trust that the sky is still there, unbroken, untouched, behind the clouds. Presence is not a rejection of emotion, it is a sanctuary for it, a holy altar where even your deepest ache is offered not in shame but in reverence. And the more you open yourself to the fullness of each moment, the more you realize that joy and sorrow are not opposites. They are companion. They are different keys on the same piano, and your soul came here to play every note, not just the light ones, not just the sweet ones, but all of them. For each vibration reveals a layer of your own divinity, a piece of the infinite echoing through your finite form. And as you stay present, not just with pleasure, but with everything, you begin to notice a softening. Life no longer feels like a battlefield to conquer, but a river to join. You move with less friction, speak with less force. You don't need to control the current. You simply trust the direction, even when it twists, even when it narrows, even when the destination is unclear. Trust becomes your new gravity, and the now becomes your ground. You find peace not in knowing what's next, but in knowing that whatever comes, you will meet it with all of you, with your breath, your heart, your wholeness. There is a grace in living this way, a quiet majesty that cannot be faked. The world will still move fast, will still push and pull, will still offer 1,000 distractions, but you will have found your center, and from that center, your life becomes an offering. Not because you tried to make it one, but because that is what presence does. It turns everything into a gift. Your gaze becomes healing. Your touch becomes prayer. Your silence becomes a sanctuary for those who've forgotten their own. And this is how you begin to serve, not from exhaustion, not from obligation, but from overflow. You are not pouring out what you barely have. You are radiating what cannot be contained. Your joy becomes generous. Your peace becomes contagious. Your presence becomes a mirror in which others see the truth of themselves reflected, not the roles they've played, not the masks they've worn, but the unchanging light beneath it all. The eternal flame that was never extinguished, only hidden. And in this way, your life becomes sacred, not because of what you do, but because of how you are. You become a living temple, not built of stone, but of breath and openness and love. You walk through the world not with answers, but with presence. Not with certainty, but with surrender. And that surrender is not weakness, it is the highest strength. It is the strength of the sky holding every weather. The strength of the ocean rising and falling without resistance. The strength of the now, eternal and unshakable. So let it hold you, let it breathe you, let it become your home. The now is not something to visit, it is something to live. It is not something you earn, it is something you are. And the more you live from this truth, the more the boundaries between you and life dissolve. The more you stop asking, what do I want from life? And begin asking, what does life want from me? Not in fear, not in servitude, but in sacred partnership, in divine intimacy, in the recognition that you and life are not two but one. And when that realization anchors deep enough in your bones, you will no longer chase purpose, you will embody it. You will no longer wait for the perfect moment. You will realize this moment is perfect in its imperfection. You will no longer strive to be enough. You will see that you already are. You always were, and you always will be. So take this breath, not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. Celebrate it not as a fleeting moment, but as a doorway to the eternal. Celebrate the now not as a stop along the way, but as the way itself. And now, beloved soul, as we near the closing arc of this journey, feel the deep hush that rises from within, not a silence of absence, but a silence of fullness. A silence so rich, so saturated with presence, that it dissolves the need for answers, dissolves the grip of striving, dissolves even the need for conclusion. For in this space you are no longer a seeker, you are the sought. You are no longer reaching, you are resting. You are no longer a question, you are the answer unfolding in real time. There's nothing missing here, nothing broken, nothing waiting to be repaired. There is only this breath, sacred and whole, lifting you gently into your own remembrance. You were never far. You only dreamt of distance. You were never lost. You only believed in separation. And now the dream has ended. The veil has thinned. And in this quiet light, you remember not with thought, but with being. You remember that love was never something you had to earn. It was the language your soul has been speaking since the dawn of your first heartbeat. You remember that peace was never somewhere else to be found. It was the still presence, sitting patiently beneath every moment you wished away. You remember that joy does not arrive at the end of your list. It is woven into the rhythm of the now, waiting only to be noticed. And so you arrive not at a destination, but at a depth. Not in fanfare, but in presence. You arrive as the sky arrives at dawn, not because it tries, but because it is time. This is your dawn, the gentle reawakening to your own light, the inner nod of yes to the moment, just as it is. No conditions, no performance, just presence. Let the world continue as it will, its noise, its change, its seasons. But let your soul remain rooted in what is eternal, not unmoved but unshaken. Let every rising sun remind you that presence is a beginning without end. Let every exhale be a release from the myth that you must do more, be more, have more to be worthy of this sacred life. You are already worthy. You are already whole. You are already home. There is no grand finale to presence, because presence is the finale of every illusion. It is the quiet undoing of everything that kept you from seeing the truth. And the truth is not complex, it is simple. So simple the mind overlooks it. So quiet the ego cannot hear it. But the soul always knows. So now, with hands open and heart soft, let it all go. Let go of the search, let go of the pressure, let go of the noise, and feel what remains. The breath, the stillness, the aliveness, the now. Celebrate it not with noise, but with awe, not with striving, but with surrender, not with trying to capture it, but by letting it capture you. And when you walk forward from here, you won't need to remember every word, every insight, every image. Just carry the feeling, the knowing, the sacred echo that now lives in your bones. And let it speak, not in speech, but in how you live, how you listen, how you love. Let the now walk with you. Let it breathe through you. Let it be enough. Let it be everything. There comes a moment quiet as a breath, soft as morning light, when you stop running, you stop reaching. Not because the journey is over, but because something ancient stirs in you, something sacred that whispers not of what is missing, but of what has always been present. And in that holy stillness, a truth begins to dawn, not like a sudden revelation, but like the sun slowly rising over the ocean of your soul. You already have enough. You, beloved, have been born whole, not one day in the distant future, not after you earn it, deserve it, prove it. From the first flutter of life within your mother's womb, you were declared complete by the very source that breathes stars into existence. There is nothing broken in you, nothing missing, nothing that must be added for you to be worthy of love, of peace, of joy. You are the sacred whole pretending to be incomplete, the eternal flame wrapped in temporary shadow, the vast ocean disguised as a wave. But the world taught you otherwise. It told you that you must strive, compete, accumulate. It sold you the story that you are not enough unless you become more and more beautiful, more successful, more liked, more productive. And so you became a collector of more, chasing external validation like a mirage on the horizon. Yet each time you reached it, the thirst remained. Why? Because you cannot drink truth from the cup of illusion. You already have enough. Not in the sense that your possessions are sufficient, but in the deeper, eternal sense that you are already whole. The enoughness I speak of is not a measure of quantity, it is a state of being. It is the deep abiding peace that arises when you stop confusing your identity with your achievements, when you stop measuring your worth by the standards of a world that has forgotten the soul. You were never meant to be what others expect. You were born to be what the divine expressed. Look at nature, it does not strive to impress. The tree does not apologize for how slowly it grows. The ocean does not beg to be deeper. The stars do not compete for brightness. Each simply is radiant, unhurried, sufficient. And so are you. The great illusion of the ego is lack. It whispers that there is something wrong with you, that you must hustle to be worthy, that your value lies in doing rather than being. But the soul knows better. The soul does not strive. The soul does not beg. The soul simply shines. It knows its worth because it remembers its source. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." The Tao reminds us, "He who knows he has enough is rich." And Rumi, with the elegance of a mystic, said, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" These are not poetic metaphors. They are soul truths, echoes of the eternal wisdom that lives inside you now, waiting not to be earned, but to be recognized. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath, not as a mechanical function, but as a divine rhythm. Each inhale is a receiving. Each exhale is a releasing. In this sacred exchange, you lack nothing. The breath does not demand payment. It is freely given, just like life, just like love, just like the grace that has carried you through every storm, even the ones you thought would break you. You already have enough. You have enough courage to rise again, even if your hands still tremble. You have enough love to heal the wounds you thought were permanent. You have enough light to find your way home in the darkest night. The answers you seek do not live in someone else's book, someone else's approval, someone else's arms. They live in the quiet chamber of your own soul, behind the noise of your doubt, beyond the fog of your forgetting. And what if your life was not a journey to attain something new, but a sacred unveiling of what has always been there? What if every breakdown was a breakthrough in disguise, sent not to punish you, but to peel away the false and reveal the true? What if your heartbreaks were not failures, but sacred doorways into deeper compassion? What if your emptiness was not a curse, but a call to stop stuffing your soul with distractions and return to the divine fullness already within? You already have enough, not just materially, spiritually, energetically. You have the wisdom of the stars in your cells. You have the memory of wholeness in your heart. You have the divine blueprint encoded in your very breath. You do not need to become enlightened. You are enlightenment, temporarily pretending to be lost. You do not need to seek love. You are love, experiencing itself in form. The greatest lie you were ever told is that you must earn what you already are. And the most profound freedom you will ever know is the moment you realize you don't have to. Let the world chase illusions. Let others build towers of ego and climb mountains of validation. You be still. Sink deep into the ground of your being. Feel the sacred enoughness that has always been your foundation. In this stillness, miracles happen not because you forced them, but because you finally got out of the way. You don't have to do more. You don't have to be more. You don't have to fix what was never broken. The ego says, improve. The soul says, remember. The ego screams, you are not there yet. The soul whispers, you have never left. Stop trying to outrun your humanity. Embrace it. Bow to it. Let it be the very altar upon which your divinity dances. Because your scars do not diminish your light, they refract it. Your flaws do not obscure your holiness, they reveal the texture of your soul's depth. And your fears, they do not disqualify you. They are simply shadows cast by the light you have forgotten is yours. You already have enough, even when you feel like you don't. Even when you doubt, when you stumble, when you forget, especially then. Because enoughness is not a feeling, it is a truth. It is not something you earn, it is something you are. You were not born to strive, you were born to shine. And the only thing standing in the way is the thought that something is missing, but there is nothing missing in you. There never was. There never will be. Let this be the day you stop measuring yourself by a broken ruler. Let this be the hour you return, not to perfection, but to presence. Let this be the breath where you remember not with your mind, but with your being that you already have enough. You are enough. You are whole. You are home. And that, beloved, is more than enough. And as you sit now with this truth warming your chest like morning sun through a window, notice how your very being softens. The mind, so used to racing, so trained in doubt, begins to slow, not because it has all the answers, but because it is no longer trying to prove the question. You are never the question. You have always been the answer. The sacred wordless answer wrapped in form and breath and ache and joy. You are the poem life is still reciting, not for applause, but for the beauty of its own echo. There is no final summit, no last prize that when earned will whisper, now you are enough. That voice has always whispered. You've just been taught to ignore it, taught to listen to the louder voice, the voice of culture, of comparison, of not yet, but the whisper is still there. It never left. It lives in the spaces between your thoughts, in the tears you don't understand, in the longing that has no name. It lives in the stillness after surrender, when you finally stop trying to win your own love. You see, the soul never asked you to perform. It never required applause. It only asked you to feel, to remember, to allow. But we became performers in a theater of forgetting. We put on the costume of getting there, of not quite, of someday. And in doing so, we hid our radiance behind roles that never truly fit. We dimmed our own light and called it humility. We denied our sufficiency and called it discipline. But the truth is, the greatest act of courage is to finally, irrevocably accept yourself. Not the self you show the world, but the one who exists before effort, before shame, before identity. That self, the unnameable, unshakable beingness beneath all striving, is what is holy. And when you live from that place, everything shifts. You begin to live with your soul at the helm, not because you learned something new, but because you unlearned everything that told you you weren't enough. It's not that you must stop growing. Growth is sacred, but not when it is rooted in lack. Grow because you are enough, not because you aren't. Create from overflow, not from emptiness. Serve because you remember, not because you are trying to be remembered. Let your life bloom not to be impressive, but to be expressed. You are not a seed trying to become a tree. You are the tree already planted, already rooted, already reaching. The seed was never separate from the oak. It was the oak in hiding. And so it is with you. Every ache you've ever felt was the cracking open of that seed. Every heartbreak was the soil breaking loose so you could rise. Every time you thought you were being buried, you were actually being planted. And now, beloved, you are rising, not because you've acquired something, but because you finally laid something down. The burden of proving, the armor of pretending, the weight of false identity. What a sacred relief it is to no longer strive, to no longer chase love, because you've remembered you are its very source. This is not resignation, it is revelation. It is the sacred turning inward, the bowing of the ego at the feet of the soul. It is the silent revolution that begins when you no longer seek the light, because you realize you are the light. Let the world say what it will. Let it misunderstand you, undervalue you, overlook you. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be free. And freedom does not come from convincing, it comes from remembering, from knowing that your worth was never up for debate. It was sealed into you by the hand of the infinite. Your breath is the signature of God. Your being is the evidence of enoughness. And if you could see yourself as the universe sees you, even for a moment, your heart would burst with awe. There is no part of you that is unworthy of love. No moment in your story that disqualifies you from grace. Even your pain, especially your pain, has been holy. It carved the space where the light now enters. It shaped your compassion, molded your depth, softened your pride. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear. Not one night spent wondering. Not one fall from grace. Every step brought you here. To this remembering. And this remembering is not just for you. When one soul remembers its enoughness, it sends ripples into the collective. Your healing becomes a map for others. Your wholeness becomes a mirror. You do not have to preach. You do not have to teach. You only have to be. and your being will do the rest. There is a power and presence that no performance can match, a power that doesn't need words because it is felt in the silence. This world is not in need of more noise. It is starving for stillness. And stillness is born of enoughness. It is born of the sacred sigh that leaves your lips when you realize, I am already home. You may not have everything you want, but you already are everything you need. And when that truth roots in you, not just in your thoughts, but in your bones, you become untouchable. Not in the sense that nothing can hurt you, but in the deeper sense that nothing can define you. You move through joy and sorrow with equal reverence. You begin to see that everything is happening not to break you, but to wake you. Not to punish, but to polish. Not to deprive, but to direct. What if your life has never been off course? What if every detour was the path? What if the enoughness you seek was never at the finish line, but has been walking beside you all along? Breathe that in. Let it settle. Let it undo the grip of striving. Let it soften the corners of your self-judgment. You have tried so hard. You have carried so much. And now you are allowed to rest. Not because the work is done, but because you no longer believe your worth is tied to the outcome. You already have enough. You are already the flame, not the one lighting the fire, but the fire itself. There is something unspeakably holy about simplicity. The kind of simplicity that arrives not by shrinking the world, but by expanding your awareness of what truly matters. The deeper you go into yourself, the more the clutter of illusion falls away. Not with force, but with grace. Like leaves letting go of a tree in autumn because they were never meant to stay. You begin to see how little you need in order to feel whole, because wholeness is not something you build, it's something you return to. When you stop defining your life by what you accumulate, you begin to remember yourself by what you emanate. You become less concerned with impressions and more devoted to expression. You cease reaching outward and begin radiating inward. The energy of needing becomes the energy of knowing. And from knowing arises peace, not the passive kind, but the radiant, grounded kind that walks through storms without losing its center. You do not need to chase after your purpose as though it's hiding from you. Your purpose is not a prize, it is a presence. It is not something you find, it is something you allow. It lives in the way you speak when your heart is open, in the way your eyes soften when you truly see another, in the way your soul breathes more deeply when you align with truth. Your purpose is not an event, it is a frequency. And you are already tuned to it if you will only stop changing the station out of fear. Every comparison is a forgetting. Every moment you measure your life against another's timeline is a moment you silence your own soul's wisdom. You were never meant to be a replica of someone else's light. You were created to shine in a way that only you can. And the moment you abandon imitation is the moment your true power begins to flow. Not a power of dominance, but of authenticity. The kind of power that turns heads, not with volume, but with vibration. You are not here to compete. You are here to remember. To remember that your uniqueness is not a flaw, it is your fingerprint from the divine. No one else can bring your exact essence into the world. No one else can breathe your breath, love your way, walk your soul's path. To try to become someone else is to dim the very miracle that is you. And the world doesn't need another copy, it needs the unfiltered, unmasked, unrepeatable light that you carry. Can you feel it now? That subtle shift inside you. The space that opens when you no longer resist what is. That, beloved, is alignment. That is surrender. That is the sacred return. You do not have to solve your life like a puzzle. You only have to live it like a prayer. Each step a bow, each word a blessing, each silence a sanctuary. You begin to recognize that even your breath is an act of worship when it is taken in awareness. The ego wants outcomes. The soul desires openness. The ego fears the unknown. The soul welcomes the unfolding. The ego clings to control. The soul lives in communion. And each time you choose soul over ego, you align with the rhythm of life itself. You stop pushing the river and allow yourself to float. Not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. You trust that the same force that turns acorns into forests and embryos into human beings is shaping your life with equal precision. There is no need to resist the rhythm. Even your seasons of waiting are sacred. Even your moments of doubt are seeds of depth. Even your silence speaks volumes in the language of the divine. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. You do not need to be certain to be true. You do not need to be flawless to be whole. What you need is already here, presence. That holy, spacious awareness that wraps its arms around whatever arises and says, this too belongs. So stop withholding your peace. Stop placing conditions on your joy. There is no future version of you that will be more worthy of freedom than the one sitting here right now. The doorway is not ahead of you, it is beneath your very feet. All that is required is that you stop stepping over it and instead step through. Let life be as it is, not because you are powerless to change it, but because true change begins with acceptance. You cannot transform what you still resist. You cannot evolve while denying the ground you stand on. And so, let this be your holy ground, this moment, this breath, this being. And when you begin to walk this way, not chasing, not proving, but simply allowing something miraculous occurs, you begin to feel life loving you back. The synchronicities, the clarity, the quiet knowing. They are not accidents, they are echoes. Echoes of your return to your natural state of enoughness. When you no longer grasp, you open. And what flows into that openness is everything you once thought you had to earn. You were never meant to grip life so tightly. You were meant to dance with it, to let it move through you like music, to trust its pauses as much as its crescendos, to let go of needing the next note to make sense, and instead revel in the melody unfolding moment by moment. There's no destination more sacred than this. To live so fully aligned with your soul that even in uncertainty you feel whole. To walk the world not needing to be more, but choosing to be deeply, utterly present, because, beloved, you already have enough. There is a place within you where the wind does not reach, where time loses its grip, where wounds are not bandaged, but transfigured into wisdom. That place is not reserved for the chosen, nor built through effort. It is your original home, the unchanging space of awareness, untouched by identity. You do not need to fight your way back to it. You need only stop turning away. You see, wholeness has never required your perfection. It only requires your presence. And when you stop trying to fix what was never broken, you begin to see the divine intelligence, even in your detours. What once felt like failure begins to feel like preparation. What once looked like delay reveals itself as divine timing. You start to realize that every unanswered prayer was a doorway to a greater alignment. Every no you received echoed a deeper yes, whispered by the universe. And as you rest into this deeper rhythm, you feel something loosening, perhaps the tightness in your chest that has lived there since childhood, or the belief that you had to earn love by becoming smaller or smarter or more pleasing. Let it go now. Not with force, with grace, with forgiveness. With the understanding that you were never wrong for longing, never wrong for not knowing, never wrong for simply being human. Even your uncertainty was sacred. You were never behind. You were never late. You were simply blooming according to a timeline the world does not understand. Like the lotus that takes years beneath the surface before it blossoms in beauty above the water, you too have been becoming in silence, preparing in shadows, softening in sorrow. And now, here you are, not complete because you added something, but because you finally laid something down. And what is left in the absence of all that grasping, striving, and fixing? Peace. Not the brittle peace of avoidance, but the deep-rooted peace of coming home. The kind of peace that arises when you stop editing yourself, when you breathe without apology, when you speak not to be accepted, but because silence is no longer an option. When you allow joy to visit you even when the world insists it is inappropriate. That kind of peace is not earned, it is remembered. And in that remembrance, your eyes begin to see differently. You no longer look out at the world through the lens of scarcity. You see not just objects or obstacles, but symbols, messages, miracles. The tree outside your window is no longer just a tree, it is a sermon in stillness. The stranger's smile on the street becomes an echo of your own light reflected back to you. Even your own breath becomes a sacred chant. Inhale, I am. Exhale, enough. There is a holiness to this way of living. A reverence not tied to religion, but born of intimacy with life itself. You begin to taste the divine in a glass of water. Hear God's voice in the quiet between words. Feel eternity pulsing in the most fleeting of moments, because everything becomes more vivid, more tender, more real when seen through the eyes of presence. You are not here to endure your life. You are here to feel it, to taste it, to witness it. to let it shape you not into something better, but into something truer. And the truth is, you were always this vast, this sacred, this enough. You just forgot. And now you remember, not with the mind that analyzes, but with the heart that recognizes. Not with logic, but with love. Not through proof, but through presence. And as this remembering deepens, you find yourself speaking less from the surface and more from the soul. Your words slow down. Your movements become intentional. You stop rushing to the next thing and begin to meet the moment like an old friend. You learn that silence is not emptiness, but fullness beyond words. That rest is not laziness, but alignment. That the real treasure is not at the end of your to-do list, but hidden in plain sight, in the rhythm of your breath, in the warmth of your hands, in the stillness of now. There is no need to rush this process. There is no finish line, no final arrival. This journey is not about becoming extraordinary. It is about reclaiming the ordinary as sacred. Washing the dishes becomes a ceremony of devotion. Tending to your body becomes an act of reverence. Holding space for another becomes a prayer without words. Life, in its simplest moments, becomes your greatest teacher. And what you learn is this: nothing more is required of you. You do not need to chase transformation. It is already happening with every surrendered breath. You do not need to force love. You are swimming in it. You do not need to seek power. The power is in your presence. You are already full, already worthy, already home, and when the world forgets, because it will when it tempts you again with the lie that you must achieve more, become more, do more to be loved, remember this truth not as an idea, but as a way of being. You already have enough. You have not journeyed to become more. You have not wandered to find what was lost. You have traveled only to remember what was never absent. And now, like a circle coming full, like a wave folding back into the ocean, you stand once more at the threshold of your own being, not as a seeker, but as a witness. You look into the mirror, and you no longer see lack staring back. You see life. Raw, real, radiant, not flawless, but beautiful in its honesty. Not polished, but luminous in its vulnerability. You meet your own eyes, and you no longer beg them for proof. You see the fire, the softness, the sacred resilience of a soul that has weathered every storm and still dares to love again. You begin to understand that wholeness is not an achievement, it is an acceptance. It is not the result of fixing every flaw, but of embracing every piece, even the parts you once exiled, especially those, the forgotten child within you, the trembling self who needed more time. The shadow you denied each one is welcomed back now, each one held in the warmth of your awakening heart. And what a miracle it is to no longer abandon yourself, to no longer demand that joy wait until the circumstances are perfect, to no longer withhold your own embrace until you've earned it. You stand now not on the edge of something greater, but at the very center of it, the sacred now, the holy inhale, the stillness that has always known your name. This is not the end. It is the beginning of living from enoughness, the beginning of no longer seeking the light but realizing you are the flame, the beginning of walking through the world not asking, am I worthy, but declaring, I am. And as you walk this path of presence, you carry no banner, wear no badge. You do not need to prove your peace. It is felt in your silence. It is known in your gaze. It is offered in the way you hold space for others to remember themselves. This, beloved, is the quiet revolution of the soul. Not a storm, a sunrise, not a roar, a presence, not a conquest, a return. You return to the moment with reverence. You return to your breath with gratitude. You return to the world with softness. And the world, once harsh and sharp in its edges, begins to soften in response. Because when you remember you are enough, you remind others that they are too. And that is the healing, not to fix the world, but to embody truth so deeply that the illusion of lack begins to dissolve wherever you stand. You become the space where peace breathes more freely, the voice that speaks without urgency, the soul that offers love without condition. And though the path may still twist, though the winds may still rise, you no longer fear the unknown. You have walked through the wilderness of forgetting and emerged with the only treasure that matters, remembrance. Remembrance that you are not separate. Remembrance that you are not broken. Remembrance that you are not becoming, you are being. You already have enough, not someday, Not if, now, here, always. And so, return. Return to the quiet. Return to the sacred. Return to yourself. And know deeply, finally, forever, you were never missing. You were never lacking. You were never not enough. You are the light. You are the love. You are the miracle. You are the way home. And now you have arrived.